Did you know that even Greek gods could die? Well, of course, according to mythology, that wasn't possible. But it is the fact that the belief ancient people once had in the Greek gods eventually died over time. Faith in Zeus, Aphrodite, and all the others. Nowadays, all of that is nothing more than history, culture, or fiction, if you prefer. And in a very similar way, ENTPs can suffer from something close to that. My name is Julius Caesar, and this is a series focused on the problems of the 16 personalities, where I compare function looping with certain psychiatric disorders based on another theory. And in the case of ENTPs, there's a strong connection when dysfunctional with the narcissistic personality type. At first glance, narcissists are usually seen as selfish people who only care about themselves, people who sometimes want the worst for others, but that's a very common sense interpretation. After all, ironically or not, the term comes from the Greek myth of Narcissus, who stared at his own reflection in a lake and eventually drowned because he cared about nothing beyond himself, or his reflection in this case. And apparently, ENTPs are more prone to this than most other personality types, because while INFJs, which we talked about in the last video, tend to become too absorbed in themselves, introverted, and staying trapped inside their own minds, ENTPs, being extroverted, do the opposite due to an E, or extroverted intuition, and FE, extroverted feeling. The loop is always directed outward instead of inward. And while an I speaks about an ideal created by the person themselves, something that often only makes sense to them, and E, being extroverted, speaks about an ideal that everybody dreams of or wishes they could have. In other words, instead of idealizing a perfect world, the ENTP usually has a very good sense of what other people consider to be a perfect world. That's an E. And naturally, and they also tend to try to provide this ideal world to others out of a genuine aptitude through FE, the extroverted feeling. That's what makes ENTP, who is usually considered the debater type, a logical type, completely discard their own independent thinking, TI, the introverted thinking, in order to offer other people what they want, what would emotionally comfort them. But that is often cannot sustain itself, making the ENTP seem fake, manipulative, I don't know how it's pronounced, or superficial at times, while also being extremely charismatic. They are the homme fatales who appear during night and disappear during the day. They are the magic pixie dream boys who fulfill all of your girl's dreams and then never see her again. Or simply characters who seem unbelievably cool and incredible that people and everyone loves, but over time we realize that this incredible factor is not infinite after all. Summer of 500 Days of Summer is an ENTP. She seduces the INFP simp and then disappears from his life like it was nothing. Satoru Gojo, who presents himself as the strongest of the strong, is an ENTP, insanely badass, yet dies pathetically, and that's that. Tony Stark or Rick Sanchez, the greatest geniuses of their universe, eventually get beaten by almost, anything. Other ENTPs can seem like those characters who always escape no matter what happens to them. Deadpool, Bugs Bunny, Jack Sparrow, even Joker or Edward Eric, or sometimes trickster characters who deceive others precisely because of this NEFE loop. It's no coincidence that there are at least 3 foxes in fiction that are all typed as ENTPs. Being deceptive, tricky, manipulative, cunning, it's a common archetype of this type. But it's not as if the ENTP does this maliciously. Again, it's a personality loop, and Sigmund Freud, the man who coined the term narcissism in psychology at least, did not talk about narcissism in a purely negative way, but rather as a natural tendency for people to project something from within themselves onto the external world. In other words, words, instead of cultivating this exceptional, incredible, spectacular factor inside themselves, the ENTP constantly needs to externalize it, almost like a poster or a mirror showing how incredible and spectacular they are, so they can feel the internal confidence, so they can finally do anything at all. They need to see themselves outside themselves in order to take actions that should ideally at least be internally reinforced. So while the INFJs normally tend to idealize first and then take the action, the ENTPs need first to take the action and then create an ideal out of that. In other words, these ENTPs can either become stagnant while constantly seeking other people's approval, never saying what they truly think, never pursuing what they generally want, saying things only to please others, or they become extremely shit boasters, people who constantly joke around and make humor as their personality, but who never truly talk about themselves. After all, SI, the introvert, the sensing, is a function related to the past, to personal experience, to humility, to small things, trivialities, and minute details. And because the ENTPs want too much, they want to be extraordinary and spectacular in almost everything they do, they often lack precisely this function, along with TI, the introverted thinking, which would provide them with both this personal logic, analysis, and internal confidence in their own ideas and their own opinions, even in the controversial ones, even opinions that are separated or that separate the ENTP from this group, from the external approval. But through SI, it also becomes possible to understand that there is no way to become something great without first accepting what is small. It means becoming more like an ISFJ or ISTJ. Instead of always reaching for the skies and the stars and the heights, ENTPs should learn to desire more mundane, everyday and daily things, or simpler things first, instead of wanting to reach the top overnight and ending up either deceiving others by pretending to be something they are not, or deceiving themselves and suffering the consequences of that impulsiveness or even that extreme assertiveness, especially when they are 7 with wing 8 on the Enneagram. In summary, the ENTP in a loop can become someone who desperately seeks to please others, to become something for the external world, but who has lost contact with who they really are or with the abilities they actually possess. And the way to solve this is by focusing more on what is inside rather than what is outside, whether through their real personal skills and experiences and past, or by creating more consistency, repetition, creating this past, having more attention to details and accumulating of what is real, of what is their personal living, instead of, again, living through this external expectation, through this desire, through fantasy or just possibility. A personal example here, I am an ENTP myself, and many times I've considered abandoning these MBTI videos here on my channel and my Portuguese channel and simply saying, okay, this went nowhere, let's move on. But not only did I continue making them until the very end, even when the last videos here on YouTube didn't get many views, after finishing them all, I also uploaded them into TikTok and continue posting all my videos there as well. Long videos, by the way, especially for an audience that usually prefers consuming short and fast content. And then those videos became far more successful than I ever imagined they would. I imagined that only happened because I was capable of first finishing something and then following through, persistent, and also by giving details of something I deeply understood, something from my own personal knowledge and from things I have learned myself as well. Instead of making, random videos and trying to be the know-it-all, I tried to maintain focus, direction, and to create a methodology, since all of these videos follow a certain pattern. I also share personal opinions and perspectives, which to me reflects TI, introverted thinking, through logical analysis of personality types while also reflecting the SI, both in this methodology, in the repetitive structure of this video, and those videos, and in the content itself, which is basically, again, a repetition of things I already know, I've already studied, or already lived through my own life, like I'm doing right here, right now. And that's the advice I'd give you if you are an ENTP. Instead of wanting everything overnight or wanting to become something merely to appear like, someone you are not, why not become a little more humble? Why not become yourself even? Focus on something specific, carry it forward, repeat it over and over again, even if it seems boring. And maybe, just maybe, you might finally achieve the very thing you've been searching for while endlessly jumping from one possibility to another, exactly as EDOMs tend to do. And instead of finding your desires outside in the world, in people, or in the external ideas and possibilities, perhaps you can find it within yourself, through what you actually do, through your own abilities, your own methodology, your identity, instead of what you try and want to appear to be. And that's it. My name is Julio Cesar. I'm a clinical psychologist in Brazil. If you are an ENTP is interested in a deeper and more personal counseling, check the link in the description, and let's schedule a session. Like, comment, share the video with a friend, and I'll see you in the next time. Bye bye.